Good morning. It is 8 o'clock on May 14th. Welcome to the Economic Development Authority meeting. First roll of business is the roll call, and we do have a quorum present with all members here. Item 2.1, EDA, April 9th, 2024 minutes.
I'll offer a motion to approve those.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3.1, administrative activities for April of 2024.
Good morning, President and Commissioners. You have the report in your packet. I just have one item to highlight for you. Under the Get It Ready loan program, one loan closed in the amount of $40,000. Other than that, it was pretty routine.
If there's no comments, I'll make a motion to accept the administrative activities report for April of 2024.
Thanks.
That.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4.1, EDA, May 14th, 2024 claims list.
Heather, I had a question just on the city of New Ulm, the $9,800. What's all included in those expenses?
That was a little higher this month because it had our first and second quarter property insurance for the public housing properties on it. It's usually around $6,000 typically.
And
That's part of my wages. It's part of my support staff wages, maintenance position, employee benefits, postage, phone, it's office expenses and staff
Just curious.
expenses
Thank you.
mainly.
I'll offer a motion then to approve the EDA May 14th claim list.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5.1, commercial property rehab loan for G&A Properties LLC.
All right, so we received an application for this property. It's the former Alliance Bank building that someone purchased, and they're running an athletic training center for kids that are in sports, teenagers typically, to train during their off season or to help them improve the skills they need for the particular sport they participate in. There is no mortgage on the property, so we would be in first position on this mortgage. And also just wanted to point out the reason it's coming to you for approval is with this program, any loans over $50,000 need board approval.
That was my first question but you said there's no mortgage on it, so I was more concerned if anything went wrong, how are we going to get paid back? But
Yeah, typically we're in second position behind the mortgage on the property, but in this case, we're in first position. We do file a lien with all of our loan programs. We do file a recorded mortgage with the county, so if the business closes and they sell the property, we typically get paid back anyway, so.
okay. Other than that, I don't see a problem with that.
I also think it's good to see that building going to good use and being rehabbed and updated. So if there's no other comments, I'll make a motion to approve with conditions a $74,900 commercial property rehab loan to G&A Properties LLC.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Who are those people?
Oh gosh, I was afraid someone was going to ask. I know her name is
It's on
Amanda.
here. It's Amanda Wendiger.
It's Amanda.
Wenniger, thank
Yeah.
you. I was thinking Domeyer, and I knew that wasn't right. I knew it was a common New Ulm name.
Yep. So, Wendinger.
So it's somebody local, is what you're
Yeah.
telling me?
Yes, it is. Yep.
The name?
Amanda Wenninger.
Amanda Winning, okay. wondering if that's a significant amount of money that we're talking about.
I think in relation to the amount of the building itself, and then the rehab project that they're doing is 217,000. So this is only funding a portion of those interior updates.
And the reason I'm asking the question, I mean, I've missed a couple of meetings, and there may have been some other discussion about this before, but it is kind of a new agenda item for me.
It's coming because it's over 50,000, so for us to approve all. But it's a 10-year term with a 2% interest rate on those funds.
Okay.
Do you have further questions?
No, I'm okay.
Okay. Anybody else further questions? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5.2, Small Business Incentive Grant Program Funding.
All right, so at the beginning of this year, you allocated $105,000 for this grant program in 2024 to fund the 14 businesses that we had on the waiting list. The grants were reduced from $10,000 apiece to $7,500. And so 7,500 times 14 came to $105,000. I've been working with the businesses to collect the necessary paperwork that's needed to go ahead and pay out the grant funds. Several businesses have received their grants to date, but I have two businesses that have withdrawn their application. Either they didn't want to take the time to meet with Wendy and create a business plan, or the other business didn't have the necessary documentation to prove their expenses. You know, they had submitted a bunch of things written down on notebook paper. I said, no, I need actual receipts and invoices, and they communicated back to me that they didn't have those. So they wanted to withdraw their application as well. As a result, there will be $15,000 unspent for those two businesses. So I wanted to bring it back to you to let you decide, do you want to make those funds available to two new businesses, or do you want to just keep the money in reserves for the next grant cycle? $105,000 is the most we've spent in a year. That's, this started out at $50,000 a year. Sometimes we've done $70,000. This year, $105,000 is the biggest grant year. So, we could just keep it in reserves and not spend it. I just wanted you to make that decision. If we do decide to make the funds available, we need to determine a method of selecting two new recipients. Do we go by the next two businesses that opened? Do we open an application window and just take it first come, first serve, the first two applications we get? Do we open the applications, and if we get 10, we select two with a random lottery, or is there another method? What is a fair way? Because we have closed the application window. So how do we then select two? So a lot of things to consider depending on which way you want to go on this. So you either will make a decision to award the two new grants and determine a method, or leave the funds in reserves until next year.
Let's take this part by part. The first part, do we want to look at awarding that money, or do we want to just hold it for next year and then
I do.
we can go from?
I would like to keep it going. We've already budgeted for it and planned it, and I think that we've closed our window. So let's go ahead and figure out how we're going to get the new two.
I would say yes, if we also budgeted the money, that we should award it. In regards to the application process, I think that you guys, Chris and Heather, you guys have a very good temperature of, what types of new businesses are coming, what types of business would apply. What I would really like to see is to have the person or the company go through the application process, and I think it should be awarded to the first two that come with all of the necessary information and paperwork. I think having somebody fill out an application and saying, we're going to hold this money for you, is putting us where we are right now. So I think having a clear application process to say, here's your application, this is what we have available. We have two of 7,500. when you have all of the necessary paperwork, if you can get that in and be one of those two and just award it in that fashion, as opposed to kind of earmarking funds for people, and other people might not have a chance, and then we run into this again.
So the first two complete application packets received.
That are ready and show, that's what it's really for. Do we want to incentivize people to say, oh, the $7,500 is coming and it's earmarked for you? I think as a business owner, if we're giving a grant, there needs to be that responsibility for them to come with all of the information. And then that process is clear.
Let's pull it back, though, to do we want to award this or not? I am not in favor of awarding the additional $7,500, just because it does create a little bit of a mess on the back end. We've already said these 14 are getting it, so two don't. We can always take those monies and apply it to next year and add that to next year's. I'm not in favor of this year, but
Well, we also changed the amount awarded so that we could give it to more. We changed it from 10 to 7,500, so we could give those 14, I believe. So I think we should still find those two.
I agree. I think we should fund, I have maybe a different idea, and we've had some discussion here about priorities and what should we appoint the funds to. We've talked about daycare. Daycare is a high priority. If there's any daycares in this group of 10, I would elevate them probably to the top. I don't know what the categories are, but maybe we should spend some time as a group coming up with what our priorities should be, and then see if there's any of those 10 fit those criteria, and they would, to me, get first chance at that funding versus those that don't. We could probably do that, bang that out the next session, coming up with.
I could be wrong, but I thought we had planned that for starting for next year, that we were going to have a new criteria
Right.
set up for the new applicants.
We'd just be advancing that procedure.
Yeah, sure.
But I don't know.
Something that related to all this, I think we should
Mike.
think about.
Can you?
I'm sorry. Oh. Isn't that on? Yeah, yeah.
gotta
Well,
get
your head
closer
was,
to it.
I was too far away, okay. Okay, I'll talk to the, to the board. I was talking to, I guess I'm used to looking at people when I talk to them. And part of this is just the background that I come from. And within, I am retired now, but in the business that I was in for a long, long time, we had SOPs for everything. In other words, if this happens, do that. If that happens, do this. And so that we avoid that. If we had a laid out set of instructions, if this happens, and in this particular case, if this happens, we know right away what we should do, as opposed to there might be some of us that have a strong feeling about this or that, and are influential enough that we'll push that through. Now, do we? And I guess it's more of a question, I guess, on my part. Do we want to just kind of have this? When things like this come up, is just kind of a free for all, and we'll do what we think we should do, as opposed to what the policy says we should do. But again, that's me. I've lived in a world of SOPs for many, many years, and that's just the way I think. Now, in this case, right now, I think we should just do whatever our best judgment says. But I think, I don't know who would write an SOP like that.
We would.
You would? I mean,
Between Heather and I.
Comfortable thinking about that anyway?
Yeah. I mean, this one is a very specific or a very unique circumstance. And again, what I would look at and how I look at this is carrying the money over, because at the beginning of the year, you gave 14 because there were 14 on the waiting list. That's the only reason there's 105,000. Two of those 14 pulled out. So you roll it over to next year. So you have 90,000 next year if you fund it for 75, because we're changing, prioritizing businesses. So we're already doing that. So just do it, because we're opening the grant cycle again in November. That's 6 months away. So you just have 90,000. You don't have to reopen a grant cycle, create new documents, and then create a frantic dash for the first one to see it in the paper to be like, okay, now I need to apply. It's, hey, in November it's open, everyone, there's 90,000 available, and you're not losing anything. You're funding, and again, 12 instead of 10 as the next year rolls around. But, whatever the board decides is what we'll do. But yes, we can put together an operating procedure for something along those lines. Yeah.
I don't know, how do the rest of you, what do the rest of you think about that?
You hit what I'm feeling at the moment is we're being very reactive instead of proactive
Yes.
in how we approach this.
Yeah.
And I'm not a reactive type of person. Commissioner Black or Mayor Backer, any additional comments, thoughts?
Well, my comment would be that we accomplished what we intended to, which was to give out those grants initially. If two failed or aren't being followed up with, I think we still achieved what we intended to, and they've gone through the rigor of trying to figure out to qualify and to keep those grants. So I would just move forward and bank the money for next year and give two more next year, give people opportunity to plan to do their businesses and apply for the grant.
I'm going to go with Andrea. I think we should pay it out now, and then it should be the normal application process. Make sure they have all the stuff that's in there, otherwise it's unfair, I guess, if that's what our process was. So I think we should pay them. Those people might not be around, you know what I mean? If they don't get that chance to move up, then they might not be at all.
And part of me sort of thinks that we are the economic development. If we sit on it for 6 months, we're not doing a lot of economic development. We potentially could be stifling a couple groups that want to get going. I don't know.
Heather and Chris, what's kind of the temperature out there? I mean, are there other new businesses or any businesses that are kind of going to fit a need for us that we see coming in the next couple of months? Or do you anticipate if it does open that there would be a lot of applications, at this point? I mean, because thinking about what you guys said as well, if the window opens in November, I forget that we're in May already, and so anyone that would start a business would have that 90-day cycle. And so, I don't know. I mean, do you think if it was open that I don't know that there'd be a mad dash per se, but interested companies that could benefit? I mean, I know that's a very broad question, but.
Well, I can tell you there's more than 2 that would be eligible to apply at this time that, missed the last cutoff. I've had people contact me, I'm opening a business. I hear you have a grant program, and I'm explaining to them that they'll have to wait for the next window. So I know there are businesses out there that are interested in the grant. Hope that answers your question.
Oh, Chris.
So there would be a handful of businesses that would be eligible, like Heather said, but again, you have the Mexican restaurant potentially open on the corner where Rivals used to be. I mean, there's businesses opening all the time. But if we're really looking at prioritizing what we want to do, there's no point opening it right now because you're just going to be funding whoever comes in. And so again, you're missing an opportunity to really prioritize and do strategic economic development versus, again, being just reactive. We have money, let's spend it.
That's why we're here, folks.
Good discussion.
Yeah.
And I would say I would also add most of the businesses that are waiting have already been waiting. So another 6 months because they were already told the grant cycle's been closed. So, you can always open it, or you can open it in October instead of November, but the grant cycle's been closed, so no one's been applying.
Right.
I do prefer to be strategic in what we do with our money.
So the deadline now is, that it opens in November, closes when?
That hasn't been set yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
That will be determined at a future meeting.
I'm might be more swayed if we would open it up earlier and make it effective earlier. You might be able to sway my vote a little bit.
We won't be giving it until after January anyway, right?
Yeah,
So it's just more
January
people have
1st.
more time to
Apply.
get together their things. So currently we have roughly 3 to 4 that,
I can think of about 5.
Well, and to go back to kind of some of the thoughts that I had earlier, you know, and wanting to be more strategic with it. I mean, it does make sense to put some of these, I guess, I don't want to say scoring, but priority perhaps. You know, I mean, that is our job also, is to make sure that they're going to businesses that are filling the needs, you know.
Well, and that was my concern when we talked about first come, first serve, but maybe it takes people a bit longer to be strategic in looking at what they want to do and accomplish. And if we at our end took those extra months to set that grid, which is, I believe, is important. What are the priorities of economic development for New Ulm? Is it childcare? Is it transportation? Blah, blah, blah. And that should come forward as we're planning those criterion. So I understand wanting to award the dollars because they're there, but on the other hand, we have an opportunity now to forward those dollars to support, you know, our outcome that we're looking toward as far as being strategic.
Can I ask if any of the ones pending are daycare providers?
No.
That is one of our priorities. That's a known priority, so I think it's, had there been 2 or 3 of those, I might have a different answer.
I think of the 5, I'm thinking of 3 are retail, 1 is services, and 1 is a restaurant.
What was that last one?
Restaurant.
Restaurant, okay.
We've had very good discussion. I would call for a motion one way or the other and vote. Please vote the way you want to vote and not to be with the majority. I think this is important. This is the first time we've really had a difference of opinion. So vote the way you want to vote, and depending on that, we will continue further discussion or move on to the next agenda item.
Who wants to be brave today?
I will say I like the discussion that we had, and it has changed my mind. I think that let's put those monies into moving for next year. And since we were planning on organizing how we decided who was going to get it, let's do that and put that funds to next year.
I'll say it's not that far away, and it would give us a chance to put the criteria in place we're looking for. So, yeah, it does make sense.
I'll second the motion on, I would hope that we would move forward and move maybe a little more quickly on the dates that we can provide the funding.
Yes, I think were we kind of planning on discussing it in like October and opening in November? So let's move it up to when we set our plan. I don't know, do we need a work session for that? I'm not sure how do we just decide that in a meeting, what our criteria are?
Right.
And then,
We can do both. We can have a work study session if you would like a work study session, but we can draft a couple different options and just present it at a meeting.
Sure.
For you to decide which route you want to go.
okay.
Yeah, we could rate the categories, or we could even maybe do that between meetings. If Heather sent something out like that, we could prioritize what we think and send it back to you and see, you could tabulate it and see if daycare's the highest or whatever it is, whatever categories are in a rating scale. That make sense?
Yeah, we'll figure it out and
Yeah.
we'll
Okay.
get it.
Okay.
We'll get it before everyone.
We have a motion to push the awards of small business incentive grants to the next fiscal year or to the next round of granting. And we do have a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Item 5.3, consider approving proposal for a hotel feasibility study.
All right, so going back to the work session that was held in January, one of the goals that came out of that was to complete a hotel feasibility study. The last one was done in 2017 and was not completed. It was felt early on that we could not support another hotel at that time. But a lot of things have changed. We've been through COVID. There's a lot more traveling doctors, nurses, things like that, where people are staying in town during the week now. So I think it's a good idea to revisit that and conduct a new study. So we went out for RFPs, and we received 3 proposals. You can see listed here. Gray Hospitality LLC was the low bidder on this project, $9,575. The other 2 proposals were $16,800 from Hotel and Leisure Advisors, and I don't know if it's Paddock Hospitality Consultants was $17,000. We had a proposed budget of about $10,000 to conduct this study, so the Gray Hospitality proposal falls within those parameters. And Chris and I looked over all 3 proposals and felt they all could do a good job. So with scoring, Gray Hospitality rose to the top, being the low
I was
cost.
on the EDA at the last time we took a look at this, and I'm pretty sure it was $12,000 bid on the from back in 17. That just number just sticks in my head, and we had a hotel that was very interested in building here at the time. Had already done their own research, and they said, all we need is a hotel study to say yes, and we'll build. And then there was some controversy over the components of that study, and then it was shut down about halfway through, so we never got to finish it. So I would strongly support this and would approve the proposal. I'll go ahead and make the motion. We'll see where it goes. So motion to approve the proposal from Gray Hospitality LLC not to exceed $9,575 for a hotel market study and feasibility analysis, and authorize staff to enter into an agreement.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just want to point out that it is a not-to-exceed number, so the actual cost could be lower, but it won't exceed $9,575.
Do we know what their timeline is? Did they set
It's
in the proposal?
around 60 days, 60 to 90
60 to
days.
90,
Yeah.
Impressed with the number of places where they've already done this. They do have
Yeah,
experience,
they're very
which is good.
experienced.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6.1, Economic Development Activity Report.
I'll just point out for you, we did have a commercial property rehab loan close last month in the amount of $35,690. That one didn't come to the board for approval because it was under the $50,000. That was for the Lola property downtown. And then one new application was received, and that's the one that was approved today. 2 small business loan applications were received, and one loan has already closed in the amount of $10,000. Let's see. And then Chris and I met with Region 9 and a developer to discuss the deed redevelopment grant application for the mall project. So working on getting that completed and submitted.
And then we got the 2 applications in for the Minnesota Housing and Finance Department for their workforce development housing grant for the Maplewood and Highland project, and for the mall project. So we should know in a couple months where that's going to fall. I did meet with Retail Strategies last week, initial kickoff meeting. So they're back in the picture, up and running, and looking at our newhomebusiness.com website, They were really impressed and said no other city's doing what we're doing as far as economic development website goes. So that's kudos to Heather and staff for putting that together. It's what site selectors are looking for. So just initial kickoff with them, talking very high level. Hey, what are we sort of missing in the city? Nothing concrete. We'll ask some of those questions when we do our strategic plan to get community feedback on that. And then introduce them, got them the contact information for Eric Bodie and Dane Fisher, as they're going to have potential retail space downstairs to get them connected. And they will be in Las Vegas next week for the International Council of Shopping Centers Convention in Vegas. So that's their big annual national convention. So they'll start putting New Ulm out there again to see what potentially is there for us. And then the 3 lots down on 4th and Broadway, they're still in their due diligence period, which should end at the end of this month.
Okay.
Lots going on. I will, that being said, I'll make a motion to accept the Economic Development Activity Report for April 2024 activities.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.